I'll never slow down, no. I don't take crap, I have no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough, I wanna hate this. I'll never show up. I don't ever slow down.
No, I don't take crap, I got no love, but the fate needs. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow down. No, I don't take crap, I got no love for the and make a statement. I don't ever slow down. No, I don't take crap. I sense fakeness. If you wanna act tough and hate, I won't show up or make a statement.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Hello, friends. An invading soldier makes the best decision of his life and surrenders to a group of Ukrainian infantry. Recently, attractive financial incentives have been established for each Russian soldier captured. The goal is to have as many Russian prisoners as possible in order to exchange them for Ukrainian soldiers held by the Horde. What I wonder is whether the Horde will be willing to trade back the mercenaries they are bringing from Africa and Asia. I think those will stay with Ukraine until the war ends. The campaign of mid-range attacks is still in full swing, to the point that Ivan now has to jump out of moving trucks 50 kilometers away from the front in Sloviansk. In this case, courtesy of a Mosquito from the Apache Mosquito Operators Unit. But come on, let's not judge the guy so harshly. It's totally reasonable that he ejected, since it's definitely better to take the fall of your life and end up with a broken leg or hip than to stay in the truck and take Putin's kiss delivered by a Mosquito drone head on. A solid 10 points in the Invaders Diving Championship. In a beautifully coordinated nighttime operation, carried out during the early hours between July 5th and 6th, the Unmanned Systems forces led in this operation by the 414th Magyar Birds Brigade carried out one of the most forceful attacks to date in the campaign to isolate Crimea and cut off its vital supply lines. The operators of the 9th Kairos Battalion and the 13th Detachment of the Brigade, in collaboration with intelligence assets from the Ukrainian Navy, located and attacked 2 tanker ships of the fleet. In Putler's shadow, they were sailing through the Sea of Azov and were identified as the Sanar 4 and Captain Barman. Each ship was carrying approximately 7,000 tons of gasoline, which, to give you an idea, is equivalent to 200 rail tank cars full of fuel, and they were en route from Taganrog to Crimea. Both ships were designed to operate between the rivers and navigable inland canals of Russia and the open sea, transporting fuel in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Both ships were hit in the superstructure with the aim of disabling the bridge, leaving them adrift. Simultaneously, and to make things more difficult for the invaders, an attack was launched against the oil depot in Kerch, with multiple Mosquito drones hitting the facilities, which caused widespread fires. The raid also managed to neutralize a Nevu radar installation in the same area of the Kerch Strait, as well as 2 launchers of the S-400 Triumph Air Defense System 1 in a hidden position in Crimea and another in the settlement of Kosenki in Russia's Bryansk region. These S-400 units were being used by the Horde to launch ballistic missiles against cities within Ukrainian territory. Commander Robert Magyar Brovdy reported that his birds had successfully attacked 47 military targets in the Russian rear during the operation, which aims to exhaust all the fuel reserves of the peninsula, isolating it from new supplies, in addition to disabling the entire power supply network, destroying dozens of power stations and transformers so far. The goal is to make life so miserable for the invaders in Crimea that they have to start retreating back to Mordor, crossing the bridge over the Kerch Strait. Strategically, the attacks intensify the pressure on Crimea's already precarious supply lines. With land routes constantly threatened and the Kerch Bridge always at risk of being sent to the bottom of the strait, The Z forces now depend on some tanker managing to evade Ukrainian surveillance and bring them some fuel to keep their military operations going on the peninsula. Now, neutralizing these ships not only cuts off the fuel supply for troops and civilians, but also demonstrates the defenders' ability to project their power deep into the Sea of Azov. As the 414th Brigade says, "We will stand up and Crimea will fall." More robots are coming because the German Ministry of Defense has awarded a major contract to the company Quantum Tanker Industries for the production and delivery to the armed forces of Ukraine of no less than 2,000 Termit unmanned ground vehicles. This initiative is one of the largest ground drone acquisition programs worldwide, making it clear that the Defenders' ground forces are strongly focused on autonomous systems to improve operational effectiveness and minimize the risk to their soldiers on the battlefield. The Termit platform, developed by the Ukrainian manufacturer Tenkor, has already proven its resilience on the battlefield with more than 3,000 units delivered and thousands of missions carried out since 2023. These versatile ground drones perform a wide range of functions, including casualty evacuation, logistical transport, deployment of barbed wire and mines, and direct combat support. Production will be handled by a joint venture between German company Quantum Systems, Ukrainian company Tenkor, and other partners, aiming to speed up mass manufacturing using Germany's high-capacity infrastructure. An interesting fact is that the vehicles will integrate the advanced Mosaic UXS software platform from Quantum Systems, which will allow a single operator to manage multiple drones at the same time, optimizing mission planning, reconnaissance, target identification, direct combat, and battle damage assessment. We continue with ground robots, and in this footage we see field tests of the heavy modular 8x8 ground vehicle from the Ukrainian robotics company Batag, which is designed to operate on all types of terrain, carrying a payload of up to 2 tons. The platform has full 8x8 drive and is equipped with wide all-terrain tires, specially designed to move through the snow and mud of the Ukrainian steppes at sustained speeds of up to 42 kilometers per hour. The power plant is hybrid for greater autonomy, and navigation is carried out by an artificial intelligence agent that uses a set of sensors, including a LiDAR system, which emits laser light pulses to calculate exact distances and create three-dimensional maps of the environment, as well as computer vision cameras that allow it to avoid obstacles and operate without a GPS signal. Designed as a heavy multi-purpose ground drone, the system can carry out missions of logistical resupply, integration of remotely controlled weapon stations, and medical evacuation, roles that it can quickly switch between using specific modules for each mission. To conclude, an important fact: on July 6th, Ukrainian forces attacked the largest oil refinery in Russia, which is located in Omsk, 2,500 kilometers from the front. It processes around 21 million tons of crude oil per year, which represents 8% of Mordor's refining capacity. Now, according to Russian sources and reports from Reuters, the attack managed to damage the crude distillation unit, CDU-10, which represents 38% of the refinery's capacity, and disrupted critical network connections with the adjacent CDU-11 unit, responsible for another 37% of the production. This damage has forced a complete shutdown of the refinery's operations. This will leave total Russian gasoline production between 15 and 20% below domestic demand, a situation that defenders will surely continue to worsen with new attacks. One effect of this is that the start of the 2026 Russian grain harvest has been noticeably slower, as farmers have harvested only a third of the cultivated area compared to the same period last year. According to the authorities, it seems that farmers are selling the subsidized diesel they receive from the state on the black market, which is a much more lucrative business than using it to operate their machinery. This is worsening delays in both the harvest and the transportation of grain. If this situation continues, a significant part of the harvest could be lost, causing food problems for the population. Hello friends, here's the full video of how a Russian mobile air defense group almost managed to deputinize themselves. After mounting a 4-barrel Gatling-type rotary machine gun, the Yak B-12.7, which was specifically developed to be mounted on a Mi-24 heavy attack helicopter. And they have just a bit of angular recoil, coupled with some torque, which made the turret spin uncontrollably, throwing Ivan overboard from the vehicle. But the one who really surprised me with his reflexes was his colleague, who was also on the back of the truck and managed to duck before the runaway machine gun could ruin his afternoon. But surely at least it singed his hair. One can't help but wonder what happened to the rest of the artillery crew present at the training session, who are usually arranged in a semicircle to watch the operation of a weapon system. However, despite our expectations, no one was injured, except for the invader who stopped the weapon's rotation with his hands, which caused him to suffer minor burns. This is where that meme applies.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
But let's look on the bright side. At least there was no shortage of laughs. Now, this type of machine gun can indeed be used as an anti-aircraft weapon, as we see in this footage, where a thermal camera was installed and it's mounted on a suitable platform, capable of keeping the recoil line as close as possible to the axis of rotation and placing the combined center of mass of the weapon and ammunition over the pivot point. Don't ask Ivan for that. He's just here to invade. An invader was assigned to guard a tactical invader's firing port, but asked Ivan instead. However, Ivan was so absorbed in his stroll on that beautiful summer day that he lost situational awareness. Luckily, a friendly mosquito came down to visit him to make him regret signing the contract to travel to Ukraine. In any case, the mosquito was very clever and used the oldest trick in the book, diving down with the sun at its back, which can be inferred from the shape of the shadows. Well, Ivan, it's time to sleep. This is getting pretty weird. A Ukrainian reconnaissance drone was patrolling when it noticed that some invaders were having a group work motivation session. Leading them was what I'd venture to call a sergeant, giving a talk to his men with what appears to be a stick, which he uses as a teaching tool to make sure the message has been clearly understood. Anyway, never mind, just orcs being orcs. Too bad there wasn't a Ukrainian attack mosquito around. It would have been a great lesson for the novice invaders. You know it, Ivan. Go to the front with a big smile or you'll get your dose of motivation again. Sometimes it's not possible to realize the actual size of the Shahed drones that the Horde launches every day against Ukrainian cities. But thanks to this farmer, who found one of Ivan's vultures in his field, we can see its real scale. I just hope they deactivated it before moving it, although I doubt these countrymen really care, to be honest. The agricultural division of Ukraine is active again, similar to when they retrieved armored vehicles Ivan abandoned during his 2022 reverse offensive. On the air front, the Minister of Defense, Mikhail Fedorov, announced the delivery of several advanced mobile F-16 flight simulators to the Air Force, not only with the goal of speeding up the training of new pilots, but also to be used in the design and testing of new combat tactics by active Ukrainian pilots, allowing them to rehearse complex combat scenarios without having to use their valuable F-16s. This is known as synthetic training. The delivery was managed by the countries participating in the Air Force Capabilities Coalition, which is a multinational group formed under the Ramstein 2.0 working format, and its goal is to provide additional capabilities to maximize the use of Ukrainian F-16s. In addition, it coordinates the supply of Western combat aircraft, pilot and technician training, development of maintenance infrastructure, and the transfer of munitions and associated systems. The exact number of F-16 mobile simulators has not been revealed, but we do know that this is the second batch. The first was delivered in April this year. These units are scarce worldwide due to their high cost, specialized design, and training software that perfectly imitates the flight characteristics of the F-16s. In addition, these systems are configured for Ukraine's needs, including maps of the country and a database of the threats they have to face. They are also highly mobile, so they can be relocated quickly if necessary. In fact, they can be relocated quickly if needed. On the naval front, Ukraine's unmanned systems forces reported having attacked another 15 vessels from Ivan the pirate's base in the Sea of Azov during the night of July 13. The targets included 7 oil tankers, 5 dry cargo ships, a ferry, and 2 tugboats. With the results of this latest special naval operation, the total number of vessels from the fleet in the shadows of the Z-Horde that have been attacked rises to 105 in just 8 days. In the footage, you can see how the mosquitoes descend like the plagues of Egypt upon the fleeing fleet of the invaders, with multiple impacts visible on the ships, mostly concentrated on the bridges, aiming to disable them and leave them without control. Apart from the videos released by the Ukrainian forces themselves, the attacks have been confirmed by images taken by independent satellites from Planet Labs and the European Union's Copernicus program, which show columns of black smoke rising from the ships. Commander Robert Magyar Brovdi stated on Telegram that the logistical infrastructure of the peninsula is being attacked every night. Traffic through the strait has stopped and the unloading of goods has been reduced to a minimum, referring to the strategic Kerch Strait and the logistics centers that serve Crimea. The campaign in the Sea of Azov represents a logical evolution in Ukraine's strategy, which first focused on destroying land-based transportation and fuel refining infrastructure, causing a severe gasoline shortage in Crimea. In response, the invaders tried to send supplies by sea, so the defenders responded by launching their swarm against Ivan the pirate's ships, who I don't think was prepared for such an effective offensive. In fact, so far I haven't seen any defensive fire from the ships, neither missiles nor gunfire. That indicates that the Russian sailors weren't expecting to be attacked while sailing offshore. In response to the attacks on their ships in the Sea of Azov, Ivan the pirate is launching his Garan 4 attack drones into the Azov Sea, equipped with autonomous guidance modules to target grain transport ships arriving at the Ukrainian port of Chornomorsk, which is located near Odessa. The footage shows the guidance system evaluating and designating targets in the port. The air defenses managed to intercept most of the attackers, but still several managed to slip into the port. These attacks caused significant damage to the port terminals, which forced their operations to be suspended, putting global food security at risk. Reports confirm civilian casualties, including dead and injured, aboard a Togolese-flagged vessel that was unloading fertilizers, as well as damage to multiple Ukrainian naval and commercial assets. The defenders are responding in kind, and their attack drones paid a visit to the Russian port of Azov in Rostov Oblast, targeting key fuel infrastructure, oil terminals, and port support facilities, causing severe damage throughout the bay. An eye for an eye, Ivan. Hello, friends. One of the Defender's artillery crews needed firewood for their redoubt and decided to get it in an unorthodox way, that is, by using their self-propelled howitzer. Now, more seriously, the impact on the tree is quite dangerous, because in the worst case, it can cause a premature detonation, sending a barrage of splinters and fragments. And in the best case scenario, it significantly shortens the range of the ammunition, which can pose a danger to Allied troops. During attacks on the Z-Guard's rear, the operators of the Black Sky Battalion, belonging to the 3rd Spartan Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard, published a video on July 13 showing how they are expanding their mid-range attack campaign, launching their attack drones against a Russian ship anchored in the port of Mariupol, which is about 115 kilometers from the front line. This does not mean that Black Sky has neglected its duties, at times against the ground invaders, as they also shared a series of recordings of their attacks against logistics trucks trying to travel along the Donetsk roads leading to the front, including the T-0507 highway near Kotelnikovo and a gas station with liquefied natural gas tanks near Starovechevo. The Spartan Brigade is known for its relentless drone operations along the corridor between Donetsk and Mariupol, maintaining constant pressure on Russian supply lines. The goal of the Black Sky Battalion is to permanently disrupt the flow of reinforcements, ammunition, fuel, and essential equipment for the Russian forces operating in that southern sector of the Donetsk front. On the logistics front, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has officially approved an improved variant of the Gursa 2 armored vehicle, a local development that has already been given the green light to join the ranks of the armed forces. Under the Ukro Armortek brand, this evolution of the Gursa 01 was born from the lessons learned by the defenders on the Zero line, turning real experience into a dramatic leap in survivability and situational awareness. The vehicle meets NATO STANAG 4569 standards levels, 3A and 3B, which means that the crew can keep yawning even if they hit a mine of up to 8 kilograms. This is because it has a reinforced V-shaped hull, 360-degree internal anti-fragmentation lining, and ballistic protection capable of withstanding armor-piercing incendiary rounds, as well as the shrapnel rain from invading artillery. Its mobility is on another level, with independent suspension and a central tire inflation system. It can fly at 110 kilometers per hour on the road and has a range of 1,200 kilometers. It is designed for long-distance patrols and urban combat, carrying 10 soldiers plus the driver in an ergonomic space with air conditioning and thermal insulation. But what really makes it a different kind of predator is its 360-degree surveillance system, made up of a set of day and night cameras, monitored by an artificial intelligence agent that instantly detects invaders, vehicles, drones, and mines, drastically reducing reaction times to any surprise from the orcs. To deliver therapy to the invaders, it has fire support options that include remote weapon stations equipped with classic 7.62 or 12.7 millimeter machine guns, or, if something more powerful is preferred, a 40 millimeter grenade launcher. Now, what's interesting is that these stations are capable of automatically locking onto their targets, and they can fire without having to stop. This piece of engineering is a reflection of the new generation of Ukrainian combat vehicles that prioritize, above all, the lives of soldiers. A few days ago, the 1st Azov Army Corps announced to us the execution of Operation Peklo, or Hell in Spanish, which was carried out by unmanned systems operators in a masterful display of asymmetric warfare through which they methodically dismantled a secret fuel storage and distribution base, which the Horde had set up in the occupied city of Novoambrovzivka in the Donetsk region. A commander describes the actions. Petroleum products are pillars of this war. To ensure efficient logistics, the Russians built a network of fuel storage facilities in the Donetsk region, 16 kilometers from the state border. The heart of this system was the Novoambrovzivka storage facility, which was camouflaged on the grounds of an old cement factory, where products arrived by rail and were stored in above-ground and underground tanks.
Stored in above-ground tanks. Thank you.
From there, tanker trucks disguised as civilian vehicles transported the fuel to the storage depots of the armies and brigades.
Tankers disguised as vehicles delivered fuel to army and brigade storage sites.
After months of silent surveillance, the forces of the 1st Azov Corps launched a series of attacks against the key nodes of the system. First, a railway crane was destroyed which could be used to clear the railway track if it was blocked. After that, They blocked the track by attacking a diesel locomotive at a point where it couldn't be towed, thus blocking the supply route to the base.
The road to the base was blocked.
Later, the electrical substation that supplied power to the entire base was destroyed. Finally, the fuel tanks were also destroyed. The invaders must clearly understand that we see them, we know what their movements are, and we will attack them at the right moment. Great work by the most well-known unit of the National Guard of Ukraine. On the maritime front, the Ukrainian Navy confirmed the final demilitarization of the patrol ship Izumrud, a Rubin-class patrol ship of the Russian FSB that ended up against a pier in Gelendzhik. The naval operators found it sailing near the port of Novorossiysk, so they sent a Sargon 3000 naval drone to greet it, which left a hole on the starboard side of the hull, which forced the crew to crash it into a pier in an emergency in the port of Gelendzhik, where it was left partially sunk. But come on, we can all agree that this is a total loss for the Horde, although surely they will say it didn't sink, it was just promoted to submarine. The Ukrainian Navy carried out this attack about 480 kilometers from the line of contact. This shows that Ukrainian surface predators are prowling the Black Sea, very close to Russian bases, and the pirate, besides having to say goodbye to his patrol ship, also lost several sailors who were wounded and deputinized. This ship, which was 62 meters long, weighed 750 tons, had a maximum speed of 27 knots, and also had a helicopter platform, was very useful for the Horde. But it had a rather dark history for Ukraine, since on November 25, 2018, it was one of the main players in the aggression. The three ships of the Ukrainian Navy, the patrol boats Berdyansk, Nikopol, and the tug Yani Janikapu, which were trying to cross the Kerch Strait on their way to Mariupol. The Russian Navy blocked the route under the Kerch Bridge with a cargo ship, preventing the formation from moving forward, and then the FSB patrol ship Don rammed the Yani Janikapu while they were chasing the Ukrainian group as it was returning to the Black Sea. Since the Ukrainian sailors did not stop, the Russian forces opened fire on the Berdyansk, wounding 6 sailors, after which they captured the 3 ships and 24 sailors, whom they held prisoner for almost a year. But well, revenge has arrived, served up by drones, and satellite images confirm that the Izumrud is half sunken, in port with its hull pierced, probably out of action for good. As a fun fact, the port of Gelendzhik is only 23 kilometers from Putin's main summer palace. The war keeps getting closer to the Tsar. Hello friends. On July 14th, Ukrainian soldiers and airmen participated for the first time in the annual Bastille Day military parade in France. 25 soldiers marched along the Champs-Élysées together with troops from the Allied coalition. Approximately 500 soldiers from the coalition, representing 35 countries that support Ukraine, opened the ground parade. The Ukrainian troops had the honor of closing the international section of the parade, which was watched from the reviewing stand by President Zelensky and the First Lady, Olena Zelenska, together with French President Emmanuel Macron and 30 other heads of state and government. In the aerial display of the parade, 9 Alpha jets from the Patrouille de France opened the parade, accompanied by 2 French Mirage 2000B 2-seat trainers, crewed by Franco-Ukrainian teams. The French instructors piloted the aircraft, while the Ukrainian student pilots flew from the rear seats. One of the Mirage 2000B aircraft featured a special livery with the national colors of Ukraine, blue and yellow. The participation reflects the close Franco-Ukrainian military cooperation, which includes the training of fighter pilots and the delivery of Mirage 2000 fighter jets to Ukraine as part of military aid. This year's parade, the largest in recent history, and the last presided over by President Macron, had as its central theme the strategic awakening of Europe. On the robotic front, soldiers from Ukraine's 33rd Independent Assault Regiment carried out an assault using their unmanned ground combat systems against two cabins occupied by the enemy. For this, they used a coordinated combination of unmanned ground vehicles and attack drones. The operation resulted in the total destruction of the Russian positions and the elimination of all enemy personnel, with Ukrainian forces reporting no casualties among the infantry or operators. In the footage, we see at least two ground drones advancing in a coordinated manner, moving sequentially toward the target structures where a group of invaders had set up. Meanwhile, a reconnaissance drone was observing the movement of the invaders, while a swarm of attack drones suppressed the Russians' counterattack attempts. The unmanned platforms, working in coordination, systematically cleared the fortified houses before a human assault team entered the positions to confirm the destruction of the invaders' nest and secure the position. This operation exemplifies the growing integration of unmanned systems in Ukraine across the entire front, which do not operate as isolated systems, but as a collaborative set of systems, in which aerial drones provide information and support, while ground combat systems carry out the assault on the invaders' positions. By deploying ground robots for the most dangerous tasks, such as breaching, clearing positions, and defending strategic locations, Ukrainian units minimize personnel exposure without compromising their combat effectiveness. The 33rd Regiment has companies specialized in unmanned systems, both aerial and ground, which have repeatedly demonstrated these types of tactics, and which seem to be particularly effective against small positions, like the two dugouts attacked in this operation. These outposts often serve as observation points, firing positions, or shelters for small units of Russian raiders. Ukraine's approach is creating a new doctrine of robotic combined arms, where ground drones advance under the cover of their aerial counterparts, neutralizing or destroying threats, and allowing for remote assessment and consolidation of operations. Thank you. Speaking of robotic dominance, a reconnaissance drone from the Horde had the opportunity to record how, on a single path in the gray zone of the front, a large number of Ukrainian attack drones were perched, waiting for some invader to try to advance through that sector. This is just a glimpse of the swarm density protecting the defenders' positions, making it nearly impossible for invaders to launch a successful attack. The Z-Mill bloggers have begun to acknowledge that the Ukrainians have achieved superiority at low altitude. In fact, due to the scarcity of targets, the Ukrainian drones usually lie in ambush to save their battery charge and only take off when they see a suitable target. As we can see in this video of a drone from the 414th Birds of Machiar Brigade, which landed camouflaged among the rubble of an industrial plant damaged by the fighting, waiting for an invader to pass by. A strategy that in this case had a successful result. On the naval front during the night of July 16th to 17th, 2026, the Ukrainian Defense Forces carried out a precision strike against a Russian Svetliak-class patrol boat belonging to the border service of the Russian Federal Security Service, which was protecting the city of Kerch in Crimea. Multiple vessels of this class have been destroyed in the last 30 days in the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, suggesting a sustained effort by the Ukrainians to weaken the Russian escort ships available for air defense. The Svetliak-class patrol boat, 50 meters long and with a displacement of 375 tons, is designed to carry out coastal surveillance missions, port protection, escorting ships, and has limited air defense and anti-submarine warfare capabilities. Equipped with an AK-176 naval gun Eagle portable air defense systems, heavy machine guns, and anti-aircraft weaponry. These vessels are operated by the FSB Border Guard to maintain control over disputed waters and to support layered defense around critical infrastructure such as the Kerch Strait. The operation went beyond the patrol boat. Ukrainian forces also attacked 2 tanker ships and a tugboat in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, the TES-1 oil terminal and the Kerch fuel storage facility, as well as the important Slavneft Janos oil refinery. In Yaroslavl, Russia, one of the largest facilities in the country, which processes around 15 million tons of crude oil per year. On the other hand, in Crimea, the Omega Special Operations Center carried out a precision strike that demilitarized a Russian Su-24M Fencer-D bomber from Ivan the Pirate's Naval Aviation, which was preparing to take off at the Saki military air base. The aircraft was hit by 2 Mosquito drones, with the first striking the nose and the second hitting one of its fuel tanks. The Fencer-D is a key asset in Russia's tactical aviation fleet, and it is commonly used from its bases in Crimea to launch missile and bomb attacks against Ukrainian frontline positions and rear areas. Its elimination directly reduces the invaders' ability to threaten Ukrainian forces and civilians. The Saki Air Base is a nerve center for Russian naval aviation operations in Crimea, which is why it has suffered repeated Ukrainian attacks in recent weeks, with multiple aircraft damaged or destroyed in previous strikes against hangars and support facilities. That's all for today. Have an excellent day and may you achieve all your goals. If you want to see additional content about the war in Ukraine, I invite you to visit our 2 new channels where we present information about the war in a different format. Don't forget to check them out. Remember to visit our Patreon, where for just $1 you'll have access to a large number of uncensored videos and documentaries. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel.